As you can see, I'm a little flustered today. I hadn't even put myself into the live stream. How crazy is that? I'm going to be being joined by my special guest, Mr. Donavan West. He's a thought leader. He's run for city council. He's the CEO of the Culturally Congruent Solutions, and he does so much more. And I asked Donavan to come on with me because he is a trusted advisor. And hopefully, once he gets here, we can have a conversation about how he supports me and helps me stay grounded and do it. And I'm going to check my notes here. But there was a few things that I wanted to share even before Donavan gets here. Over the past few weeks, I have been struggling with my own mental well being. And then a recent passing of a fellow veteran and more veterans that I personally know and some that I don't know caused me to be in an unstable state. So I took some time off. I went to the beach and I relaxed. I rejuvenated and I began to think about the things that I needed to do to make myself mentally, physically, and emotionally well. By doing that, I came back stronger than when I left. But I also came back ready to have the conversation that I felt like wasn't being had. You know, you often hear that, or you may not, but that 22 veterans are committing suicide daily. And the reality is over 132 people a day are committing suicide. Sit with that for a moment. Think about where you are right now. Look around your office, your home, your place of worship, or wherever you may be hearing this from right now. And think about the people around you. And that today, 132 people will no longer be with us by choice. I say by choice because it is a decision that one makes when we hit rock bottom and we decide that we're going to make a permanent solution to a temporary situation. I've been there. I've been at the rock bottom. And some of you've heard me say, I heard a gentleman say recently that rock bottom had a basement. Well, baby, I'm telling you, I found the basement of the basement of rock bottom at one point in my life. But because I made the call, I dialed the number, and someone on the other end of the line at old dark 30 in the morning talked to me for over 4 hours and helped me get grounded enough that I'm still here. I often think about what life for those around me would look like if 4 years ago, when I had hit my rock bottom, if I made that permanent decision for that temporary emotional upheaval. At that time, I felt like I really had nothing to stick around here for. There was a lot of stuff going on. My marriage was ending, my kid was going off to college. After being married for 23 years, I just couldn't imagine my life single at 57. Well, now I'm 61. I'm still single and I'm thriving. I'm doing well. I've written books. I've created tons of content on social media. I've helped men and women all over the world live their best life now, what is now no opportunity wasted. If you had told me 4 years ago that the life I live today would be even half of what I live today, I'd have told you were hallucinogenic drugs. That was because I couldn't see that if I could just get myself together, find that sense of peace, that sense of purpose, that I could live my best life. The truth is, oftentimes when I found myself at rock bottom, I isolated. I did things that were not conducive to maintaining a healthy environment for myself mentally, emotionally, or physically. So, what I have learned to do was to, number one, not isolate myself from those who care and love me. Because when you isolate, that is a sure setup for feeling even worse than when you started. The other thing I do is I reach out to trusted friends and advisors to make sure that they're aware that I'm struggling. I know sometimes as we or on social media or different things, or just you're living our life in general. We don't want to tell people that we're struggling because you don't want to feel weak. But I tell you, baby, it is a sign of strength when you can reach out and ask for help, even when you are afraid. See, now I have a mental health protocol that I created for myself, and I began to share it with others. Um, if you look on my LinkedIn page under Brenda Warren or on my website, BrendaTheSolutionist.com, go to the blog section, and there is an article there that has this title on it: Advocate for Your Mental Health and Live Your Best Life. You see that picture? That's the blog right there. Advocate for your mental health and live your best life. Read that article, because inside that article, there is a link for you to get a copy of the mental health protocol that I use to help myself stay safe. It lists um, my friends and family that will support me. It lists my professional support, my doctors, my counselors, my psychiatrists, my coaches. It has affirmations on it. It talks about safe words. It's a really great tool to use before you hit crisis so that you know what to do when you get there. One of the best parts about the protocol sheet is that it allowed me to have a point of reference when maybe I'm not thinking my clearest. I keep mine on my wall by my bed in my bedroom, and that allows me to stay safe. The other thing that I did with the protocol sheet is that I asked people if they wanted to be on it. Sometimes we just assume friends and families have the bandwidth to support us, when in fact they may not have the mental or emotional capacity to support us once we hit crisis. I learned that the hard way. I had an expectation that anybody that knew me or anyone that said they loved me would be there when I hit rock bottom. But the truth is, people are dealing with their own stuff as well. So by having the checklist and asking people if they wanted to be a part of it, that allowed me the opportunity to get people that were willing to support me in crisis, that knew that they were able to. I also talked to them about that if I call and I'm in crisis and they're not available, then they have the list so they know they can call someone on the list, but they've committed to making sure I'm safe. The key is to set up your mental health protocol that works best for you. If you can get people's buy-in in the beginning to support you when they know that you're struggling with depression, anxiety, PTSD, or whatever it is, then you will know that when you reach out, you'll get that support. But here's the thing: even if the people on your list are not available, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is available 24 hours a day. There will never be a time there's not someone there to take your call. And that's important to note. I want to tell you a story about how I'm so excited that they changed the number to 3 numbers, which is 988. Years ago, when I was in the deep part of crisis, I dialed the 9-digit number that they used to have, and it was a wrong number. The lady on the other end was not nice and was not happy that I was calling her. As a matter of fact, she went on to tell me how she was sick and tired of all these veterans calling her number, because if you dialed one number wrong, you got her instead of the crisis hotline. Well, baby, let me tell you, that lady told me off. And I thought at that time how sad it was that I was calling and she knew what I was calling for. But instead of saying, you dialed the wrong number, go off, because she was so frustrated, she attacked. My anger at her indifference kept me safe that particular night. But there would be other nights that I would have to make that call. Yeah, I'd love to tell you that I only made that call once, but that would not be the truth. I made that call several times, and each time I called, I had different outcomes. Once was I got the wrong number, and the lady literally cussed me out. Another time I called the number and I got the crisis hotline. And check this: the lady on the other end was new. She was distraught because she didn't know how to assist me, and she hung up on me. Somehow we got reconnected, and then she was a basket case because she hung up on me. She put me on hold. And I always say, God's got a sense of humor. That day, I got to minister to her. I called for help, but ended up being help. It's stories like that that make me laugh. And hold on, I'm checking, my guest is checking in here, and makes it uh, amazing to me that I'm still here. I know I'm resilient. I've had my ups, I've had my downs, but somehow I continue to persevere. Hmm. Unfortunately, many of our veterans or regular everyday people have hit their rock bottom and weren't able to get up. That's why I'm on this call today talking about it, because I'm asking you guys to start the conversation. I'm not asking you to fix it. I'm asking you to start the conversation. Why start the conversation? Because there have been times that I have reached out and done a thing we call buddy checks. We check on each other, our veteran population. I check on friends, veterans, family. And I would call someone and say, how you doing? People say, oh, I'm good, I'm good. But are they really? And then there's that time when I call and I find they're in their rock bottom and I'm able to lend the support they need, direct them to help, or get help to them. Sometimes people aren't able to articulate what's going on with them. So they sit in the silence, and then that's how bad things happen. So I'm asking you to start the conversation. And once the conversation is started, give the person you started with the conversation the gift of holding space long enough to make sure that they get the help they need. You may not be the help. You may not be in the mental space your own self to help them, but you can direct them to do a Google search, to call the 988 number, to seek professional help, or just be a listening ear until someone more equipped and qualified can show up to help them. It doesn't take much to reach out and let someone know that they matter. Every day I make it a point to reach out to one or two people just to say, how you doing? What's going on? I hope you're doing well. If you need to talk, I'm here. Most time, those texts goes with just a simple heart back or thumbs up, or some don't go answered. But I keep doing it in hopes that maybe I'll prevent one person from feeling like they don't, like they don't matter. It made a world of difference to me recently when I found myself struggling and people were reaching out, noticing that I had not been on social media or noticing that my routine had changed. Those are the things that are signs that maybe someone's not hitting on all cylinders. Did you notice a major shift in a friend's behavior? They're starting to drink or do drugs. They're starting to miss meetings or play dates. They're starting to not show up in general. They're isolating. They're not returning your calls. You know, the key is pay attention. We all have busy lives. We're doing the different things that we do. But could you take the time to spend time at least with the people in your area? I'm not asking you to do the world, but what about the people you live with every day? Are you so busy being busy that you didn't notice that your child is no longer talking to you? That your significant other has pulled away? That even your pet's behavior has shifted? It's time to slow down, take a deep breath, and recognize that it's important that we each take a pause and pay attention to those that we love around us. I'm not saying that that's always going to be the answer, but I am saying it's a start. I was told when I had my first suicide attempt that, well, I was just going through a phase. That was not true. I was in the deep throes of depression. There was a lot going on. I was young. I didn't have the coping skills that I have now. But even all these years later, I still struggle with suicidal thoughts. It doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make me weak. What it does make me is someone that has to be ever aware and conscious of my tendency to slip into the depths of depression and establish a strategy, a structure, and a system that will allow me to come out of it if I find myself in that situation again. I don't have to have all the answers. But what I do need to do for my own self is make sure I have a way to keep myself safe. And I keep myself safe by talking to you guys. I keep myself safe by acknowledging that I'm only human. I keep myself safe by checking in with the people that I love and that care about me and letting them know where I'm at, so that if I do find myself in the throes of a rock bottom moment, that I can get the support I need to crawl right back out of it. Some of you in the DMs have said, but Brenda, you're a Christian and you're a minister. I am that and all of that. And I still have struggled from time to time. The key is that I no longer allow the schmilk, that shame and guilt combined. Shame is you are bad. Guilt is you did something bad. I won't let the shame or the guilt of what I've done or what I've gone through or the mental health challenges that I deal with daily keep me from living my best life now. Self advocating for living your best life mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, in your business and career is so important to your overall well being. Setting up a daily routine that allows you to be your better version of yourself, or is it the best version of yourself, is important. I get up each morning, I exercise, I pray, I meditate, I make sure I eat me something healthy. I've started to eliminate sugar from my diet. I've noticed that that has a big effect on my mood. The less sugar I have, the better my mood. It is things like that that have simply helped me become more grounded, more peaceful. Taking a trip to the beach, walking in nature, hanging out with friends, doing something that nourishes my soul and lights me up is important to my well being also. There are so many different things that I do to allow myself to be um, safe. And I'm asking you, what are you willing to do to make sure you're safe? It's important that you find those things that work for you. What works for me may not work for you. That's the truth. But if you will take the time to do a little bit of a soul search, you can figure out what it is you need to make you feel better and stay grounded. If you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, a mom, a person in a high stress career, or whatever it is you do, all of us need to take the time to figure out what it is I'm always talking about the what it is that lights you up, that fills you, that nourishes you, that gives you a sense of purpose so you can stay on this side of alive. That's not everybody's issue. I'm checking right now to see where my guests. Let me see the link. Um, I am live. Anyway, you got to find your it so that you can get clear on what you want to do going forward. Now, I would love to tell you that everything is going to be perfect all the time, but you know that's not true. Life is going at the speed of life. Every day we're going to have challenges that we have to overcome. We're going to have people that piss us off. We're going to find things that just frustrate us to no end. But it's all in about how you handle it so that you can be more, what do you call it? More balanced, more safe, more even, and just find that harmony in your life that helps you stay in a good place. When I created the TAPIN method all those years back, it was because I had sat on a couch for 8 years on 22 different medications, not happy with my weight, not happy with my life, not happy with my marriage, and I needed a way out. So I created a way out after much prayer and thought, meditation, walking in my driveway. I thought about what is it going to take for me to make the shift from where I am to where I want to be. During the tap-in, I figured out how to close the gap between my desire and my reality. I closed the gap with starting with changing my mindset. You see, before I thought there was no hope and no way out. And then I discovered that by choice, there was a way out, and I simply had to find it. So I began to research about the mind, the subconscious mind, about emotions, about life. No, it was not easy, but I was hanging on to any thread that would allow me to stay on this side of alive. So I began to transform my mindset to even believe that it was possible for me to move out of the rock bottom basement, the depth of depression that I had sat in for 8 years. Once I began to shift my mindset, I then announced to the world I was no longer willing to sit on this couch any longer. And I got some accountability around that. Psychiatrists, counselors, coaches, and family members. Because even some of my closest friends and family had no idea how deep my struggle was because I was so ashamed. Marines don't do that. So I kept it all inside, internal. That's a trick of the enemy, y'all. But once I began to let it out that I was struggling, the forces began to rally around me and become the wind beneath my wings to help me up. Then I began to prepare. I started to get off the couch one step at a time, walking around my car in my driveway, and began to tell people about the struggles I was going through. I prepared what I was going to eat. I prepared what I was going to put in my brain. I changed what I was reading. I changed what I was watching. I changed what I was saying out of my mouth. I began to only speak love and positivity around myself and around others. And then I began to imagine. I began to imagine what my life would look like if I was living my best life now. What is now no opportunity wasted. I wrote out my perfect day, my perfect week, my perfect month, my perfect year. I wrote out my perfect life, y'all. Yeah, write your vision and make it plain. I saw myself becoming a best selling author. Now I am 3 times over and going for a fourth and more after that. I saw myself speaking on stages, and now I do. I saw myself teaching people all over the world as I sit right here in my podcast room, in my house, in my home, in the safety of this environment. And now I do that almost every single day. I saw myself loving like there is no heartbreak. And I know that now through counseling, I am capable of that when that other person presents themselves that is ready to receive that kind of love. I imagined myself doing what I'm doing right now, sharing my experiences and being unapologetically unstoppable and unafraid to tell the truth of what I lived, not fearing what other people think. That is freedom, y'all. I imagined what my life would be like. And today I can tell you everything I imagined and more is coming true on a regular basis. And finally, the in and tap in as I begin to nurture all of those thoughts. I began to live in an attitude of gratitude that allowed me to express my deepest, darkest thoughts, that allowed me to be my most authentic self and never, ever, ever doubt that being here was better than not being here. I really pray that each and every one of you would take the time to have a conversation with someone that you love, someone that you like, someone that you know around suicide prevention. I'm so saddened that almost every day I'm starting to have my circle become part of the bigger circle of those people that are becoming unnecessary silences. I I cannot even begin to express the pain of knowing that Michelle's 12-year-old daughter will not have the beauty and the benefit of her anymore, or all the other people that have chosen this path, that have left the aftermath of family questioning, what did I miss? How could I not seen it? All I can say is that for now, I am clear that I want to continue to be the voice for the voiceless. I do recognize that I'm going to have to take my own step back because the weight of all of this has gotten so heavy. I'm having trouble managing my own emotions around the loss of so many beautiful people that I wish were still here. And maybe someone will hear this video today. Someone will hear my voice and know that help is available. You can DM me, you can email me, Brenda the Solutionist at gmail.com. You can call a friend, a pastor, someone to let them know that you need the support that they have to give. I see that Donovan has entered the studio, but I don't see him yet. So once I do, I will bring him into the stream and we'll see what he wants to add, because Donovan has been supporting me for the past, excuse me, two years. I think it has been, yeah, about 2 years. And like I said, he is a trusted advisor, but we've had, seems like, some technical difficulties not being able to add him into the stream. But I guess I'm just thinking right now that I didn't want to let today go. I know it is the 1st of February. It is Black History Month. It is the opportunity for us to celebrate the accomplishments of African Americans. I celebrate it every day because I am Black history. I live Black history every single day. Every day I make a decision towards stepping out here and being a voice for change, a voice for reason. I'm making history. Many of you are history makers in your own right. Your business owners, your innovators, your authors, your teachers, preachers, doctors, lawyers, and so much more. I hope you'll take this month an opportunity to put that kind of things out on your social media. Let us know what you've accomplished so that we can celebrate you, so that it can inspire others, so that we can do what we do to make sure that your legacy lives on. That's one of the saddest parts about when we lose someone, is that the legacy has ended there. There's no more new stuff, but there's plenty of stuff from the past. I see that Donovan's in it now. I'm going to bring him up to the stream and see if we can get him added into this conversation. Hey, Donovan.
Hey, Brenda, how are you?
I'm hanging in there. I started telling them about my story, and I had asked you to come on. But before we start giving you the opportunity to say and share, could you tell everybody who you are and what you do? I told them a little bit about you in the beginning, but I would like you to introduce your own self, please.
Yeah, I'm Donovan West. I am a strategist, a thought partner, a an analyst at times, an advisor, a consultant, a confidant. I have, of course, a practice, culturally congruent solutions, where I focus on, providing solutions, right, that are culturally congruent, that work with you, that are organic and authentic, so to speak, as opposed to a one size fits all approach. I have a simple philosophy. I listen to lead. So if I had a superpower, that would be the superpower, and that is, being able to listen, to identify where, what you're saying and more importantly, what you're not saying, right? So that we can be able to move forward. So thank you so much, Brenda, for all the years that you've entrusted me to assist you in navigating through life's many challenges, and also inviting me to your platform.
You know, across the top it says tap into real talk, because I really wanted to have a real talk about suicide prevention. Um, And I know you were kind of pulled in this, so I'm going to show you the slide that I created again. It was advocate for your mental health and live your best life. It says, if you need to make the call, I did, and I'm still here. The Suicide Crisis Lifeline 988, Veterans Press 1 is available 24/7. The reason I wanted you here with me, Donovan, is because you are a trusted advisor. And for the past couple of years, you have been part of my growth process. You have been one of the reasons I've been able to stay on this side of a life because I know you are a trusted voice that I can reach out to. I always say for the entrepreneurs out there, coaches need coaches. And sometimes we forget that. And there are all different levels. There's your professional people, there are your lay people, there's your ministers, there's more, there's family, but there's nothing like the people that can truly, that are other business owners, if you're an entrepreneur, that can support you in actually finding ways to navigate your mental or emotional challenges. Recently, Donovan, you shared something with me that to right now, I'm literally writing a I don't know if it's a mini book or whatever, but ever since you said to me about the lenses, I started looking at how I personally look at the different things in my life. What are the lenses from which I view every situation? Today, my lens was, but for the grace of God, there go I. As yet another veteran was popped up in my feed that I'm aware of that has decided to become yet another unnecessary silence. They've made the ultimate decision to not be here anymore, leaving behind friends, family, loved ones, co workers, and children. And my heart is broken. The last one that happened that was this close, it was a matter of I literally folded like a cheap suit because I realized that I was in a burnout state myself. And I think that was a snap too for me to say, hey, Donovan, I need some help. And you were there to call my own counselors, to call my own psychiatrist. And I even went and took a trip to the beach. So if you don't mind, would you talk about how we look through the lenses of some or whatever else you want to, if that's not a good place to start for you? But I will tell you, for me, it helped me make the shift I needed because I realized I was looking through a lens that was distorted about how I saw this situation today that I'm dealing with and all the other ones around, and how I have many lenses, which when we're not on this live, I'm going to be talking to you about.
Of course, of course, of course. So, in regards to the lens, yeah, it's important that when we are looking at a situation, number one, to be able to look at the lens requires power in itself, right? It requires courage, and when I say courage, I mean the courage to actually question what you actually see to begin with, right? I'll give you a good example. I'm wearing some lenses right now, right? And if for
Mhm.
whatever reason I saw something or I didn't see something, and I question what I was looking at, the first thing I would probably do is take a look at my lenses. Like, is there something in it, or I don't see it, right? I don't see something. So I would analyze. I would look at the lens and wonder, did I really see that? I would question that. And so sometimes, just having the courage to say, what I see, is it really actually accurate? Am I actually
Mhm.
processing what's in front of me accurately? So that's the first thing, is having the courage to question, what you see. Number two, in terms of when you look at it and you see a certain thing, it's not about just, qualifying, okay, I saw that or I'm experiencing a certain thing, but but why? Why am I looking at it through this particular perspective? Why am I looking at what's informing me to look at it through this particular perspective? Is there is there an influence? Is there a trigger or something that has me looking at this in a particular way, whether it may be negatively or looking at it, maybe I might feel extremely close to a particular situation. Maybe I feel myself, push and replay, right?
Mhm.
Triggered by something that took place in the past, some trauma, crisis, or something to that effect. What is it about this situation that's that's taking me there? What am I looking at? This is important because if we have the ability just to be able to do that, we're already on our way towards surviving this and succeeding past this point. Um, Looking at the lens is about making sure that you start to now look at how you're processing things. There's a term, it's a metacognitive approach. How are you responding to this? How are you looking at this? How are you processing it? So that's what the lens is about. Is sometimes when we look at a situation and we might be overly pessimistic about it, right? This is not what informed us that that's what's going to happen, or what's in front of us is actually accurate. Most times we can do the homework and realize it's because of something in the past that we now want to forecast the future with, right? And this also leads to other levels of anxiety around what's going to happen. The other thing is also when we look at our present, our actual situation right now, the lens by which we're looking at our current situation, that can also be analyzed, and we can look at it and say, well, why do we see ourselves in this particular position? Is it really as bad as we say it is, right? And why are we having this conversation just with ourselves, right? Often these thoughts, they don't actually graduate to an audience. They stay
Mhm.
internal, which is part of the reason why a lot of people find themselves in high levels of depression, which then, we get into suicidal ideation, right? We get into that space. And it's because typically we don't have another voice in this conversation besides our own.
Mhm.
And here's the tricky thing about that, Brenda. Whatever it is that you may feel in that moment or see in that moment, very rarely are you going to have the courage to contradict yourself. So
Mhm.
if at your core you're triggered by something negatively, a traumatic experience or something to that effect, and you start to develop certain levels of anxiety, even spiral into some portion, some form of depression about it. Very rarely are you going to step out of that, right, and really start to push back and contradict what you're experiencing, what you're feeling. It's not to say that you don't have that fleeting thought here and there, but what we're talking about is enough to change that momentum, which is the reason why you hear everywhere, far and wide, that you need to talk to someone else, a trusted right person, someone who can help influence and change the trajectory of where your thoughts are taking you, right, where your emotions are taking you. This is extremely important. Someone also who has what? Another set of lenses, right?
Mhm.
Who's able to
Yeah.
see the situation from a different perspective. And that's why this is so important that you talk to someone. And even if for whatever reason you don't have that trusted person in your inner circle, then that you identify a trusted professional, right? That
Mhm.
can provide some information, some can be an ear, can be another voice in the conversation that you're having. So looking at that lens, it's extremely important that you develop the courage to say, I'm not sure what I'm seeing is really what's really happening or what's accurate. And
Mhm.
what's informing my lens, what's influencing my lens, so to speak, as I'm looking at the situation, because that's the work that we all need to do, by the way, not just you, right? Everyone is watching, everyone is listening, your friends, your family. We all have work to do in this space because none of us, to some extent, right, talk about it to the degree that it's really actually happening, right? We have so many experiences in our past, and how many of us have actually unpacked that experience or broken down that experience and said, okay, you know, can I put it in its proper place, right? Can I deal with it, work through it, right? Get through
Mhm.
it, not get over it, but get through it. And then now, right, get to a place where what I'm looking at as I move forward in my journey is actually more accurate because I'm in a more, healed space. I'm in a space where it's lighter, right? The load is lighter, the burden is lighter because I'm not carrying so many of those traumas into my journey. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. A question that I have is, because of the most recent passings, some of them were actually the veterans that other veterans went to for support. They were trauma counselors. They were the people that when you hit a crisis, you called. And what I have noticed with my interaction with some of the people that are left behind is they're saying, if she can't make it, how do you expect me to make it?
Yeah.
What would you say to those people?
Well, the first thing is that we're all different, right? Number one. Number two, it's although we want to compare, and it's very hard not to compare, right? Let's be
Mhm.
honest. The truth of the matter is that in comparison, we're always going to lose because we don't know all the facts. We don't know all that was going on.
Mhm.
And obviously, the one thing that we can say is that those thoughts won in the end, right?
Mhm.
That's the one thing we know definitively is that that person at some point succeeded to the fact that it's overwhelming and that there's nothing that can be done. And for some reason or another, the supports that were around were not, they didn't see them any longer, right?
Mhm.
Although they had routinely, especially when we're talking about in this situation, they routinely refer people, right, and leverage this toolkit, if you will, to getting to a better space, a safer space. They, for some reason or another, did no longer believe that that was an option for themselves. And we have to make sure that in our own journey that we don't succeed, that we don't surrender, if you will, to those types of thoughts. So I would say for every individual that leaned on them and
Mhm.
is feeling overwhelmed by not only the loss, right,
Mhm.
but also for their own situation, that they have to understand that they have to move forward and leverage those same tools. It doesn't make the information, the time that they invested with that individual, null and void. Not at all. That those resources, that information is still very much valid, and that it's a disease, right? It's a disease where we're at a space and place where we are overwhelmed, and the way that we fight this disease, because this disease is curable, is by doing these same things, which is reaching out to a trusted advisor, reaching out to someone in your inner circle that you trust, making sure that you get to a safe space, removing certain items and removing yourself from situations where you could harm yourself when you are feeling that way, right? These are
Mhm.
some of the things that you need to do. Praying, meditating on what's good, making sure that you are communicating these negative thoughts and what you're feeling overwhelmed about, getting it outside of yourself as opposed to just keeping it inside. These are some of the things you need to do. Of course, we hear about diaries and journals, writing your thoughts down, getting them out. Again, it's very important. These things actually do work. Maybe it's a combination of those things. For certain people, they may need to get to a level where they are taking some form of medication. That may be necessary, at least for a temporary period of time or something to that effect. But the point is that there are tons of resources that you can lean on in order to make sure that you get back to a safe space mentally. You just, first of all, you have to believe. And that's really at the core of it, right? If
Mhm.
you no longer believe that you can, then that's what the fate of those unfortunately that have left us prematurely, turns out to be, right? At some point, the belief in there being a way out, the belief in there being a safer, being able to get to safer ground, for some reason or another, they no longer believe. And what we need to do in this war on mental health is we need to instill a spirit of belief amongst those who are struggling, right? And even those that are strongest amongst us, that appear to be
Mhm.
the strongest amongst us, right? The word appear,
Mhm.
to be the strongest amongst us, they need a word, right? So even if you
Right.
take a moment and if you recall on my live, I would always say before I wrapped up my live every Wednesday, I would tell people, please take a moment, right, to just reach out to someone. It doesn't have to be a long drawn out conversation, but
Mhm.
just say, hey, listen, I thought of you, right? I see you. I'm letting you know I'm here, and that's it, right? Sometimes that can change the whole trajectory because right now, as I speak, I know your heart is heavy, and I know many that are watching, your hearts are very heavy. But this literally is a war. It is a war. In every moment, there's a person that's having that negative thought, that's feeling overwhelmed. And if you can budget a moment to just check on that person randomly, that person here and there, just to say, hey, I hadn't talked to you in a year or 2 years, 10 years, whatever. Just letting you know you crossed my mind and that you matter. And I hope all is well with you. And I'm here if you have a second or two, whatever. But the point is we, right? We, the people that are in those spaces, that sometimes when that person cannot fathom picking up the phone and dialing that 800 number, right? or or reaching out to some other resources that they're not familiar with. Sometimes it's that random call or text or something that can help keep them going just a little bit longer till they have the courage to do so.
I want to share again that for those of you that are listening or those of you that are watching, this I created an article about a week ago. It's on LinkedIn and it's also on website. This is the banner. It says advocate for your mental health and live your best life. And again, the crisis lifeline is 988 veterans, press 1. Donovan, on in that article, I created a link for people to download the mental health protocol sheet that I created, which allows me to maintain being safe. I'm also creating a step-by-step guide to maintain your mental well-being with a bunch of different steps in it. And what I did on it was I put in there some things in reference to recognizing signs of a mental deterioration, coping with strategies for stress, anxiety, emotional challenges, resonating activities to take a break, and assessing support resources. Having those things inside a book that I'm creating, and I'm going to include the mental health checklist in this. I'm just expanding it based on what's going on because it was my only way for me to process and deal with all the emotions that are coming up with yet another loss. I realized uh, it was important for me to get on here and say something because I just wanted to scream. And I thank you for holding space with me and coming here today because this is a small thing, but maybe someone will hear this and realize that help is available. And if you go to the article on my blog or on LinkedIn, you can download that checklist
Yeah.
that you can build. On the checklist, there's a place for you to put all your information. You put their professional counselors, psychiatrists, coaches, whatever. You can also put friends and family. The other thing that I tell people to do, Donovan, is to get buy-in. Make sure that the people you're asking to support you actually have the emotional and mental bandwidth to hold space for you. I found out the hard way that just because I was married to someone or because they were in my family didn't mean that they could provide the support I needed when I was in crisis. And more importantly, you don't wait till you get in crisis to fill out this sheet. You need to fill it out when you're not in crisis. If you're currently in there, still pull it off and fill it out. But the best time to do it is when you don't need it so that you have it when you do. I keep mine pasted on my wall next to my bed. I have people from all different time zones that I can reach out. You're on my list. Um, but what I did was I made sure anybody's on my list, they have agreed to support me. I have safe words that allows people to know if I tell you this, then I just need to vent. If I tell you this, I just need you to hold space. If I tell you this, I need you to dialogue with me. And if I tell you this, you better call Donavan West or my psychiatrist because I'm in trouble. They know this. And that's all on my protocol sheet. And so I thought, well, I could share this in hopes that maybe someone out there will use it and actually keep themselves on this side of alive. I also wanted you to be here to be that support when I just really say that for me, the shame and guilt surrounding having mental health concerns was overwhelming for me, Donovan. And you've been instrumental in helping me unpack all of that because, again, Marines don't do that. You know, the shame is you did that shame is you are bad, guilt is you did something bad, and I just combined them and made them schmilt. And it was just, a little cocktail for self destruction. And I say all that to say, as the past couple of years, you've helped me unpack this thing. How important do you think it is for people that maybe say, Donovan, Brenda, I'm not going to therapy. I don't go to coach. Are there any other options? Because I know for me, I isolated for years. And it wasn't until I came across you that I was able to really begin to unpack and live my best life the way I really wanted to.
Yeah, first of all, Brenda, thank you. I really mean that because while there are tons of people that are of a profession and they do this and that. Ultimately, you can't really have an organic and fruitful exchange until you give permission. So thank you for giving permission, so that you can, so that as I share with you, you can actually receive it and, retain it, apply it, right? I appreciate
Mhm.
that. That's very important. You can't have any growth without that kind of relationship. So thank you, for that. Second thing is that, for those that are saying, well, I don't want to use this resource or that resource, the first thing you have to do in that type of situation is you have to find someone, or that can assist with navigating through that. So, while the journals are good, and and I am a big fan, by the way, of prayer, of meditation, of affirmation. I'm a big fan of all of those. Having someone that you can dialogue with, really helps a great deal in terms of navigating some of those thoughts, analyzing some of those thoughts, as you mentioned, unpacking some of those thoughts and feelings and emotions. I think that's very key. So there are free resources that you can use. There are other, paid resources you can use. Whatever is going to be a good fit for you, right? Because even as you engage with someone that may be very skilled and they may technically have what you need, it's still also about a trust factor, right? It's about being able
Mhm.
to gel with that resource, feeling comfortable, because in an emergency, or even if it's just a checkup, the idea that you want to engage with that person is very important, that so that you can get the most out of it. People need to know that that's absolutely necessary. And by the way, no one, no one does it by themselves. When we think of success, it never ever involves one individual getting everything done by themselves. Why would we want to do this by ourselves? Obviously, we get it because it's intimate thoughts and everything else. And there's, like you said, there's a sense of shame. There's a sense of, wanting to be, not wanting to be judged, right? Wanting to be accepted for being this image, right? The facade that we put out that everything is well. But the truth of the matter is that we have to trust someone with some of that dirty laundry, especially depending on what we're going through, because it's that sense of isolation, right,
Mhm.
that creates the negative kind of incubator, in terms of now starting to spiral into more negative thoughts and behavior, and we want to avoid that. So having conversations with someone creates not just a solid foundation, but it also creates a level of accountability, right? It creates a level of accountability. So the things that you want for yourself and how you want to be healthy and things of that nature, it creates a certain level of accountability for you doing the work that's necessary, because it's very, intuitive for us to want to just repress something, right? To just
Mhm.
dig a hole and throw it in a hole, or put it in the basement of our mind, our conscious or subconscious, right? But the reality is that we create these emotional minds. And when we talk about being triggered, that's what happens, right? Something is triggered because it was always alive. It was just buried somewhere. And now
Mhm.
it was triggered, and we go 0 to 1,000. And you may wonder why someone that you knew, right, that was happy and everything seemed fine, tomorrow they're in dire straits, or they themselves may have taken their lives. This sometimes is due to those types of triggers, that exist under, right, the facade that we've created. So it's important that we understand that and we surrender to that, and that we humble ourselves, because, to be honest, it's a sense of like, oh, failure, or some
Mhm.
sense of, oh, we're lacking in some way, we're deficient in some way when we talk about these negative thoughts that we may have, when we are having a tough situation or season in life. And that's not true. It's what literally actually binds us all together. It's what makes us all actually human, are these feelings, the full spectrum of feelings that we feel. It's just the fact that we've made it a business to ignore those things, right? Or to use those as ways to leverage, our facade over someone else's, transparency, right? And that's the thing that we have to really, focus on. So thank you for creating, a book, and also leveraging your platform so that people can be able to use those same tools. And as I mentioned, those the other tools, the journals, the diaries, making sure that positive affirmations, the prayer, the meditation. These are also important too. Other things like going for a walk, or doing something that does soothe you, realizing that you're in a tough, that you're going through a tough moment, and being able to back out of it, and use your energy in a different space that kind of calms you down, getting grounded or whatever. Sometimes it may be, walk in the park with your shoes off. It may be, you
I like
know,
that.
uh, it may be your pet or pets that you have, whatever. It may be something like that. It may be visiting a family member, that just makes you smile and makes you feel good, right? Taking a moment to just disconnect from whatever is pulling you down, and get connected to something that typically brings you up, right? So there's a number of things that you can do, but the key thing is that you do, right? That you
All
that's what the key thing is. And I want to give you your flowers, Brenda, because you're to acknowledge and be present in your feelings, and say, okay, I'm not doing well, I'm not okay. And then to say, okay, what do I do about that, right? What do I do about it? So you reach out to those that are that are on your list, and engage in dialogue. And if you get what you need, great. If you don't, you continue on that list, right? And you continue to do. So congratulations to you, because that's what it takes. It takes you doing. And so for those who do not have that system, please begin to be intentional about creating that system. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't mean that you're on your way to a mental breakdown or
no, it
meltdown.
doesn't.
It doesn't mean it. It just means that you're creating the kind of tools. Nothing different than if you have what do you call it, a fix a flat in your trunk, right? Or
Yeah.
jumper cables, right? Get your
Hmm.
jumper cables. Get your fix a flat. Put it into your little toolkit for you, right? And make sure that you have what it takes. So just in case you're running flat for whatever reason, you have something to pump you up. Just in case you need to be recharged, you have something to connect with someone so that you can be charged up.
I like that fix a flat analogy. That's really cool. I like when you say different things. I'll be using that.
You got
Well, Donovan, I want to say thank you for coming here with me today to have this conversation, because it helped me release some of the anxiety surrounding yet another loss. And what I really want to say before we wrap this up is that if you're out there and you're struggling with thoughts of self harm, or you're just struggling with the thought that, hey, I have a mental disconnect, or whatever you want to call it, because at this point we call it so many different things. You just don't feel your emotional or mental best. Reach out, get some help, don't isolate. There is nothing wrong with admitting that you need support. And too many of us are suffering in silence, which is why I feel like I have to be the voice for the voiceless. And I'm going to keep having this conversation periodically. I'm not just going to let it go to the back burner because I haven't heard about someone close to me. Because I think that's what we all do. We have that knee jerk reaction because now it hit home. It's not the random one of the 132 people a day that are killing themselves. This is someone I know. So now we're all in our feelings, and now we want to talk about it ad nauseum. But the problem is we need to keep having the conversation. I pulled this up while Donovan was talking. It says, it's from the suicide statistics from the AFSP. It says the age adjusted suicide rate for 2021 was 14.01 per 100,000 individuals. In 2021, men died by suicide 3.9 times more than women. On average, there are 132 suicides per day. In 2023, it was recorded on December 31st that more than 50,000 Americans died by suicide. Yet, how often do you hear anyone having a conversation about our mental well being and what's causing so many people to feel like they had no other way out? Well, I'm challenging each and every one of you to have those conversations in your circle. Is it going to be easy? Not necessarily. But is it necessary? Absolutely. Because someone had the conversation with me, I'm still here. So I challenge you to have the conversation with others. But by all accounts, when the conversation was had, I had it all. And they couldn't see a reason why I wouldn't want to keep it all. But I had hit the rock bottom and the basement of rock bottom, and I found the basement of that. but thank God for a phone call and a conversation that made me believe that life was worth living. And now I'm living my best life. Donovan, I give you the last words.
No, I just want to say again, thank you. And that each person that's watching, that's listening, you may not believe this, but the truth matters. And this is what the truth is, that you actually matter and that your voice actually matters. Your network, they can literally, because of your call, your text can change the whole trajectory of their day, their overall energy, their spirit, their mindset. And so take an opportunity to do what you can with what you have. And just reach out to someone. As you just now mentioned, Brenda, there are tons of people every year. 50,000 is a staggering number when you think about the amount of people that took their own lives, not due to all the diseases and the crime and all the other things that could possibly take them out, but due to their to how they're processing what they're going through. And the key thing is that I don't think that one of those individuals was just, as we call, crazy or mad.
Mhm.
They were consumed, right, overwhelmed by what they're going through. And I think that we need to treat each other with a level of compassion and grace. And it starts with just checking in, just letting someone know that you see them. And Brenda, thank you for all that you're doing and how you're leveraging your platform. And if anyone should reach out and need an additional ear or whatever, you know, have them touch base with you, and we'll make that connection. But the goal is that each one of us understand the power of just communication, right? Of our relationship with that individual, because it may not be my voice, my attempt to engage that person, but it may be you, right?
Mhm.
That can actually get through to them and let them know to just hold on. Thanks again.
Thanks, Donovan. Just stand by while I remind everyone the choices you make today will be the reality you live tomorrow. So choose wisely and choose life. Be blessed, everyone.